I wasn't supposed to speak. I wasn't supposed to exist beyond the margins of their deals and their wars. But the night Adrian Vale looked at me, really looked, I understood something terrifying. He'd been watching me for years. And now, standing in this room draped in wedding white I never chose, I had to decide. Would I disappear like they trained me to? Or would I fight for something I'd never been allowed to want, myself? If you're ready to follow Alara's journey from silence to survival, stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city name. I want to see how far this story travels. The dress weighed more than her entire childhood. Alara stood in the preparation room, arms lifted while three women she'd never met adjusted the fabric, pinned the lace, smoothed the veil that fell past her shoulders like a curtain meant to hide her completely. The mirror showed someone else, a porcelain figure, a transaction in white silk. She didn't recognize her own face. "Hold still," one of the women murmured, not unkindly. Her fingers were quick, efficient. This wasn't her first silent bride. Alara obeyed. She'd been obeying her entire life. The room smelled like roses and something sharper, hairspray maybe, or the chemical tang of whatever they'd used to set her makeup. Everything was soft colors and muted lighting, designed to make this feel like something other than what it was. A business arrangement, a merger between families who dealt in things that didn't belong in daylight. Her father hadn't come to see her. He never did. Not for things that mattered. He delivered the news 3 weeks ago in his study, standing by the window with his back to her, the way he always spoke to her, like she was scenery, backdrop to his actual life. "You'll marry Adrian Vale. The date is set. Your mother will handle the details." That was it. No discussion, no pretense that her opinion existed. Alara had learned young that questions earned silence, or worse, so she'd nodded, lowered her eyes, and left the room as quietly as she'd entered, the way she did everything. "You're shaking." The woman adjusting her veil paused, met her eyes in the mirror. "It's normal. Everyone's nervous on their wedding day." Alara wanted to laugh. Nervous implied choice, implied anticipation of something unknown. This wasn't nerves. This was resignation. "I'm fine," she said. Her voice came out smaller than she meant it to. The woman's expression shifted. Just for a second, something almost like pity crossed her face. But she smoothed it away and went back to the veil, the dress, the force, the performance of making Alara beautiful for a man she'd never spoken to. Adrian Vale. She knew the name. Everyone in their world knew the name. The Vale family controlled half the city's underground economy, ran operations her father wouldn't touch, or couldn't. This marriage was supposed to bridge something, create alliance where there'd been careful distance. She'd seen Adrian once, maybe twice. Across crowded rooms during gatherings she attended like furniture, present but not participating. He was tall, dark-haired, the kind of handsome that looked dangerous even in expensive suits. Men feared him. Women watched him. Alara had trained herself not to watch anyone. "All done." The woman stepped back, surveying her work with professional satisfaction. "You look perfect." Perfect, like an object polished for display. Alara stared at her reflection. The dress was beautiful. She could acknowledge that objectively. Lace and silk that probably cost more than most people earned in a year. Her dark hair was swept up, held by pins that pressed into her scalp. Her makeup made her look older, more finished, like someone who'd chosen this. The door opened without warning. Her mother swept in, already dressed for the ceremony, diamonds at her throat, her expression the practiced neutrality Alara had inherited. Behind her came 2 more women carrying what looked like documents. "Everyone out!" Her mother's voice was ice wrapped in courtesy. The preparation staff vanished like smoke. When they were alone, her mother circled Alara slowly, examining every detail the way she might inspect a valuable piece about to be sold, which, Alara supposed, was essentially accurate. "You understand what's expected," her mother said. It wasn't a question. "Yes." "You'll be respectful, accommodating. You will not embarrass this family." Alara's throat tightened, but she kept her expression smooth. "I understand. The Vales are not like us." Her mother stopped in front of her, and for just a moment, something almost human flickered in her eyes. "They're more direct. Adrian particularly, but you're smart. You know how to disappear when necessary. Disappear. The skill she'd perfected. Existing without taking up space, speaking without being heard, moving through rooms without leaving impressions. I know, Alara said quietly. Her mother nodded, satisfied. She gestured to the women who'd entered with her. Sign these. The papers were thick, legal, full of language Alara didn't fully understand. Prenuptial agreements, probably. Asset protection. The architecture of dissolution before they'd even begun. She signed where they indicated. Her hand didn't shake. Good. Her mother collected the documents, handed them off. The car is waiting. It's time. Time. As if this were appointment, something scheduled between other obligations. Alara followed her mother out of the preparation room, down a hallway lined with paintings she didn't look at, through doors held open by staff who avoided her eyes. Outside, a black car idled, door open, interior dark. She got in. The drive to the venue took 20 minutes. Her mother sat beside her, checking her phone, occasionally issuing instructions to someone on the other end. Alara watched the city slide past the tinted windows. People on sidewalks living ordinary lives. She wondered what that felt like. The venue was a historic estate on the edge of the city, all stone and manicured gardens, the kind of place that hosted weddings for people who needed to project legitimacy. Old money aesthetics for new money crimes. Staff guided her to another waiting room. More flowers, more soft lighting, more performance. 10 minutes, someone said. Alara sat carefully, mindful of the dress, and pressed her palms flat against her thighs. Her hands were cold. Everything was cold. She thought about running. The idea visited her sometimes, late at night when she couldn't sleep. What would happen if she just left? Walked out, disappeared into the city, became no one? But she knew. Her father's reach was long. His patience for disobedience was non-existent, and there was nowhere safe for a girl raised in this world who tried to leave it. So she sat. She waited. The door opened. Her father stood there, dressed for the ceremony, his expression unreadable. It's time. She stood. He didn't offer his arm, didn't say anything else, just turned and walked, expecting her to follow. She did. The ceremony space was beautiful. She registered that distantly, the way she registered everything from behind glass. White flowers everywhere, candles, rows of seats filled with people she mostly didn't know, faces from both families, witnesses to the transaction. Music played, something classical, strings swelling with false emotion. She walked down the aisle with her father beside her, each step measured, practiced. Don't trip, don't hesitate, don't look at anyone directly. At the front, Adrian Vale waited. Alara kept her eyes down until the last moment, until her father deposited her next to this stranger and stepped back, his part finished. She looked up. Adrian was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. Not the cold assessment she expected, something else, something that made her pulse stutter. He was taller than she'd realized, older too, maybe 32 or 23. His suit was perfect, black and sharp, but his eyes were what caught her, dark, focused, seeing her in a way that felt invasive and impossible at the same time. Hi, he said quietly, just for her. The greeting was so unexpected, so normal, that she almost forgot to respond. Hi, she managed. His mouth twitched, almost a smile. The officiant began speaking, words about union and commitment, sanitized versions of vows that meant nothing in their context. Alara heard them at a distance, her attention split between the performance and the man standing next to her. Adrian's hand was warm when he took hers for the ring exchange, his fingers steady where hers trembled. You're okay, he murmured, too low for anyone else to hear. Just breathe. She didn't understand why he was being kind. Kindness was dangerous. It created expectations, opened vulnerabilities. But she breathed anyway. The ceremony concluded with brutal efficiency. I do. I do. You may kiss the bride. Adrian leaned in and Alara went rigid despite herself. But the kiss was brief, almost chaste, his hand gentle at the small of her back. That wasn't so bad, he said against her ear, still too quiet for the audience. Then it was over. They turned, faced the room full of people she didn't know, and walked back down the aisle together. Married, bound, done. The reception was torture dressed as celebration. Alara sat at the head table next to Adrian, a plate of food she couldn't eat in front of her, while people gave speeches full of veiled meanings and careful diplomacy. Her father spoke about alliance and strength. Adrian's father, a man who looked like violence barely contained, talked about unity and forward thinking. No one mentioned love. Adrian, to his credit, didn't force conversation. He sat beside her, occasionally leaning over to explain who someone was or warn her when another speech was starting. His proximity should have been suffocating, but somehow it wasn't. "You don't have to stay the whole time," he said during a lull. "This is mostly performance anyway." She glanced at him. "I'm fine. You haven't eaten anything." "I'm not hungry." He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, but if you need to leave, just say. We can go." Go where? To whatever house or apartment he'd prepared for them? To the next stage of this arrangement? She didn't ask. The reception dragged on. Dancing, more speeches, drinks flowing freely while everyone pretended this was celebration instead of business. Alara felt herself sliding into the familiar numbness, the detachment that made these events survivable. Until Adrian stood, offered his hand. "We should dance. It's expected." Of course it was. She let him lead her to the floor. Other couples joined, her parents, his parents, various family members performing their roles. The music was slow, orchestral, designed for swaying more than actual dancing. Adrian's hand settled at her waist, the other holding hers gently. "You can put your hand on my shoulder," he said. "I won't break." She did, carefully. "I'm not what you expected," Adrian said as they moved. It wasn't a question. Alara didn't know how to answer that. "I didn't have expectations." Liar. But his tone was almost amused. "Everyone has expectations." "Then I suppose you're not what I feared," she admitted. Something shifted in his expression. "What did you fear?" "Everything. Violence, cruelty, indifference. The 1,000 ways men in their world hurt women without leaving visible marks. It doesn't matter now," she said instead. "It does to me." She looked up at him then, really looked, trying to understand this man she'd been given to. His face was hard, the kind of features that didn't soften easily, but his eyes were different, intelligent, watching her with attention that felt genuine. "Why are you being kind?" she asked before she could stop herself. Adrian's hand tightened slightly at her waist. "Because you deserve kindness." The statement was so simple, so unexpected, that she didn't know how to respond. No one had ever suggested she deserved anything beyond survival. "You don't know me," she said carefully. "Not yet." He paused. "But I'd like to." The song ended. Other couples drifted apart, reforming, continuing the performance. Adrian led her back to the table, his hand light at the small of her back, and Alara felt something crack in her chest. This was worse than cruelty. This felt like hope, and hope was the most dangerous thing she could allow herself. They left the reception an hour later, after Adrian made their excuses with practiced ease. A car waited, different from the one that had brought her, sleeker, with a driver who nodded at Adrian like they knew each other. Alara slid into the back seat, hyper-aware of the dress, the space, the fact that she was alone with this man who was now legally her husband. Adrian got in beside her, loosened his tie with visible relief. "You did well today." "I didn't do anything." "Exactly. You survived it." He glanced at her. "That counts." The drive took them deeper into the city, through neighborhoods she recognized and then ones she didn't, expensive areas where buildings wore their wealth quietly. Eventually they pulled up to a brownstone tucked between others like it, elegant but not ostentatious. "This is home," Adrian said. "Or it can be. If you hate it, we'll find something else." The idea that her opinion mattered felt like a trick. Inside, the house was beautiful in an understated way. Hardwood floors, high ceilings, furniture that looked comfortable instead of just expensive. It smelled clean, lived in. A woman emerged from what looked like the kitchen, older, with kind eyes and flour on her hands. "Mr. Vale? And you must be Mrs. Vale." The name landed like a weight. "This is Rosa," Adrian said. "She manages the house, cooks meals that actually taste like food, and will probably take better care of you than I will." Rosa swatted his arm. "Don't listen to him. He's more capable than he pretends." She turned to Alara, her expression warming. You must be exhausted. I've prepared the main bedroom upstairs. There's food in the kitchen if you're hungry, and anything you need, just ask. Thank you, Alara managed. I'll show you up, Adrian said. She followed him upstairs, her heels clicking against hardwood, the dress heavy and alien. He led her to a bedroom that took up most of the second floor. Large windows overlooking the street, a bed that looked obscenely comfortable, a door that presumably led to a bathroom. Your things will be delivered tomorrow, Adrian said. Rosa put some basics in the closet and bathroom for tonight. He paused. This is your space. I'm down the hall. You can lock the door if you want. Alara stared at him. What? The door. It locks. He demonstrated, showing her the mechanism. You're safe here. I don't understand. Adrian studied her for a long moment. I'm not going to force anything, Alara. I know that's probably what you expected, what you were taught to prepare for, but that's not how this works. How what works? Us. He said it simply. Look, I know this marriage wasn't your choice. It wasn't really mine either, not in the way that matters. But we're here now, and I'd rather we figure out how to exist together without you being afraid every night. Something in her chest twisted. Why? Because I'm not a monster, despite what our families might suggest. His expression softened slightly. Get some rest. We can talk more tomorrow. He turned to leave. Adrian, he stopped, looked back. Did you really want this? The marriage? He was quiet for a moment. I wanted you safe. Everything else was negotiable. Then he was gone, the door closing softly behind him. Alara stood in the middle of the bedroom, still in her wedding dress, trying to process what had just happened. Her hands found the zipper, managed to work it down after some struggling. The dress pooled at her feet, and she stepped out of it carefully, left it there like evidence. In the bathroom, she found toiletries, a robe, everything she might need. She washed her face, scrubbed away the makeup until she looked like herself again, and changed into the robe. The bed was as comfortable as it looked. She should sleep. She was exhausted. Instead, she stared at the ceiling, replaying the day. The ceremony. The reception. Adrian's unexpected kindness. I wanted you safe. What did that mean? Eventually, exhaustion won. She slept fitfully, waking several times to unfamiliar sounds, the strangeness of a new place. Each time she remembered the lock on the door, the fact that Adrian had shown it to her, given her that choice. It shouldn't have mattered as much as it did. Morning arrived with sunlight through windows she'd forgotten to cover. Alara woke disoriented, took several seconds to remember where she was. The wedding, the house, Adrian. She found clothes in the closet like he'd promised. Basic things, jeans and shirts that looked new, still had tags. They fit well enough. Someone had guessed her size accurately. Downstairs, she followed the smell of coffee to the kitchen. Rosa was there, cooking something that made Alara's stomach remember it existed. Good morning. Rosa smiled at her. Coffee? Breakfast? Coffee, please. Rosa poured her a cup, added cream without asking, somehow knew exactly how Alara took it. Mr. Vale left about an hour ago. He said to tell you he'll be back this afternoon, and you should make yourself at home. Make yourself at home. As if that were simple. Alara took her coffee to the living room, curled into a chair by the window, and watched the street below. People passed. Normal people with normal lives. She wondered not for the first time what that felt like. The house was quiet except for Rosa's movements in the kitchen. Alara explored slowly, cataloging rooms and spaces, a library with floor-to-ceiling shelves, an office with a desk and computer, a dining room that looked rarely used. In the library, she found herself drawn to the books. Actual books, not decorative spines. Someone had read these, dog-eared pages, made notes in margins. She pulled one down, poetry, marked passages throughout. He reads more than he admits. Alara turned. Rosa stood in the doorway, dish towel in her hands. Mr. Vale, Rosa continued, people think he's all business, but he's got depth. You'll see. You've known him long? Since he was 16, came to work for his family then. Rosa's expression grew distant. He's different from the others, always has been. Alara wanted to ask what that meant, but footsteps on the stairs interrupted, heavy, confident. Adrian appeared, dressed more casually than yesterday. Dark jeans, a sweater that made him look younger, less intimidating. "You're up," he said, like it pleased him. "Did you sleep?" "Some." He nodded, seemed to understand what she wasn't saying. "Rosa, is there food?" "Always is for you," Rosa called back, already heading to the kitchen. Adrian moved into the library, hands in his pockets, casual in a way that felt studied, like he was trying not to spook her. "I thought maybe we could talk, if you're up for it." "Okay." They sat across from each other in the living room, coffee between them like a buffer. Adrian was quiet for a moment, seemed to be choosing words carefully. "I know yesterday was overwhelming," he started, "and I know you probably have questions. I want to answer them honestly, if I can." Elara studied him. "Why did you agree to this marriage?" "Your father approached mine 6 months ago, proposed an alliance through marriage. Your name came with the offer." 6 months. They'd been planning this for 6 months while she knew nothing. "And you said yes." "Eventually," Adrian leaned forward slightly, "I had conditions, things I needed confirmed before I agreed." "What conditions?" He met her eyes. "That you weren't being hurt, that this wasn't a punishment for you, that there was some part of you, however small, that could survive this arrangement." The words landed like punches. "How would you know any of that?" Adrian was quiet for a long moment. "I've been watching you for 3 years." Elara's blood went cold. "What?" "Not like that," he said quickly. "Not surveillance. I noticed you, at gatherings, events. You always stood at the edges, never spoke unless spoken to, and I saw how your father treated you, how your mother ignored you. I saw someone disappearing in plain sight." She couldn't breathe. "You've been watching me for 3 years and I never knew?" "I'm good at what I do." "Which is?" "Paying attention." He paused. "The first time I really saw you was at the Marchetti wedding. You were wearing a blue dress, standing by the garden entrance. Someone knocked over a glass and you flinched like you'd been hit. That's when I understood." Elara remembered that wedding, remembered the dress, remembered being terrified of doing something wrong, of drawing attention. "Understood what?" Her voice came out harsh. "That you'd been trained to be invisible, that you'd learned fear so well you couldn't imagine anything else." Adrian's expression was serious. "When your father offered this marriage, I saw a chance to get you out, away from them. You don't know me. I know enough. You know nothing." She stood, needing distance. "You watched me like I was a problem to solve, an object to acquire. That's not, isn't it?" She turned on him. "You made a deal with my father using me as currency, just like he did. The only difference is you think you're being kind about it." Adrian stood too, but didn't move closer. "You're right, and I'm sorry. I should have found another way, should have asked you directly instead of going through him. But I didn't know how to reach you without putting you at risk. So you married me instead. How is that better?" "Because now you have options." His voice was firm. "You can stay here, leave, do whatever you want. I'll give you money, resources, protection if you need it, but you're not trapped. Not with me." Elara laughed, brittle. "You really believe that? That I can just leave?" "Yes. My father doesn't control you anymore. Legally, you're mine now, which means I decide what happens, and I decide you're free." The statement hung between them. Elara wanted to believe it, wanted to trust that freedom was possible. But trust was luxury she'd never been able to afford. "I need air," she said. "There's a garden out back, private. No one will bother you." She left without responding, found the back door, stepped into cold morning air. The garden was small but well kept, bench tucked under a tree losing its leaves. She sat, wrapped her arms around herself, and tried to process everything. 3 years. He'd been watching her for 3 years. The violation of it mixed with something else, something she didn't want to examine. Because part of her, the part that had been invisible her whole life, wanted to ask, "What did you see?" But that was dangerous thinking. Adrian Vale wasn't her savior. He was just another man who'd made decisions about her life without her input, even if those decisions felt different. She didn't know how long she sat there before she heard footsteps. Adrian appeared, carrying a jacket. "You'll freeze," he said, holding it out. She took it because he was right, wrapped it around her shoulders. It smelled like him, something clean and masculine. Adrian sat on the bench, left space between them. "I'm sorry," he said again, "for watching you, for making choices without asking, for all of it." "Why did you notice me?" The question came out before she could stop it. 3 years ago. Why me?" He was quiet for a long time. "You looked like I felt. Like you were going through motions, performing for an audience that didn't see you anyway. I recognized it because I'd lived it." He paused. "And when you flinched at that wedding, when I saw actual fear cross your face over broken glass, I knew your performance was survival, not choice. So you decided to save me. I decided to offer an alternative, if you wanted it. Without asking if I did. Yes, that was wrong." He turned to look at her. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to let me try to do better, to give you actual choice this time." Alara studied him. His face was serious, open in a way that felt genuine. She'd learned to read deception young. It was survival skill in her family. And she didn't see it in Adrian right now, but that didn't mean she trusted him. "What happens now?" she asked. "Whatever you want. You can stay, get to know me, see if we can build something, or you can go, and I'll make sure you have everything you need to start over somewhere else. Your choice." "And if I stay?" "Then we figure it out together. Set boundaries, expectations. Whatever makes you feel safe." He paused. "I'm not expecting anything, Alara. Not romance, not intimacy, not performance. I just want you to have space to be yourself. Whoever that is." She realized she didn't know. Who was she beyond the fear and the training? "I'll stay," she said quietly. "For now, but I want things clear between us." "Okay." "I want my own space, my own room." "Done. You already have it." "I want to know what you do, your business. I won't be kept in the dark about what I'm part of." Adrian hesitated on that one. "Some of it is dangerous to know." "My father's business was dangerous too. I'm not naive." "Fair enough. I'll tell you what I can. And I want honesty. If you're going to make decisions that affect me, I want to know about them first." "Agreed." He met her eyes. "Anything else?" "If I ask you to leave me alone, you leave me alone. Always." They sat in silence for a moment, the terms of their arrangement settling between them like a treaty. "Can I ask you something?" Adrian said. "Maybe." "What do you want? Beyond all this? If you could have anything." No one had ever asked her that. Alara didn't have an answer ready. "I don't know," she admitted. "That's okay. You have time to figure it out." Time. The word felt foreign. She'd always existed in present tense, surviving moment to moment. The idea of future that belonged to her was strange. "I used to paint," she said suddenly. "When I was younger, before my mother decided it was waste of time." "Do you miss it?" "I don't know. Maybe." Adrian stood. "Then maybe you should start again. There's an empty room upstairs. Good light. You could use it. I don't have supplies. I'll get them." He said it so simply, like it was obvious, like her wanting something was reason enough to make it happen. Alara didn't know what to do with that. They went back inside together. Rosa had made lunch, soup and bread that actually tasted like something. They ate mostly in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Just quiet. After, Adrian excused himself to his office. "Work," he explained. "But I'm here if you need anything." Alara spent the afternoon exploring more of the house, cataloging spaces, learning where things were. The empty room Adrian mentioned was on the 3rd floor, windows facing east. He was right about the light. She stood in the doorway, imagining it filled with canvases, paints, the mess of creating something. It felt like hope. And hope was terrifying. Quote, that night, Alara lay in bed, staring at the ceiling again, processing. 2 days ago, she'd been in her father's house, waiting for inevitable. Now she was here, in a stranger's home, married to a man who claimed to want her free. She didn't trust it, couldn't trust it. But she wanted to. That was the dangerous part. A soft knock on her door made her jump. "Alara, you okay?" Adrian's voice, concerned. "I'm fine," she called back. "Okay, just checking. Sleep well." Footsteps retreating down the hall. The consideration of it, Asking instead of entering, respecting the boundary, felt radical. Alara rolled over, pulled the blanket up. Tomorrow she'd test these new boundaries more, see if Adrian's promises held weight. But tonight, for the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt something other than fear. It wasn't trust. Not yet. But it was possibility, and possibility was a start. The art supplies arrived on the third day. Alara was in the kitchen with Rosa, learning how to make bread, something she'd never been allowed to do in her father's house, when the doorbell rang. Rosa wiped her hands on her apron and disappeared down the hall, returning moments later with a delivery man carrying boxes. "For you," Rosa said, directing him upstairs. Alara followed, flour still dusting her hands, and found the third-floor room transformed. 2 easels stood by the windows. Canvases of various sizes leaned against the wall. Paints, brushes, palette knives. Everything she might need covered a table that hadn't been there yesterday. Adrian appeared in the doorway behind her. "You said you used to paint," he said simply. She turned to look at him. He was in work clothes, dark slacks, white shirt with sleeves rolled up, looking like he'd just come from his office, which he probably had. "This is too much. It's a start." He moved into the room, examining the setup with the same attention he seemed to give everything. "If you need anything else, just tell Rosa. She has a list of art supply stores." "I don't know if I remember how." "Then you'll learn again." He met her eyes. "No pressure. It's here when you want it." He left before she could respond, footsteps fading down the stairs. Alara stood alone in the room, surrounded by potential, and felt something unfamiliar stir in her chest. Not quite gratitude. She didn't trust gratitude yet. But recognition, maybe. That someone had listened. She picked up a brush. The weight of it felt foreign and familiar at once. That afternoon, she opened the paints. The smell hit her first, oil and pigment, sharp and clean. Her hands remembered before her mind did, mixing colors on the palette, testing consistency. The first strokes were tentative, clumsy. She'd lost years of practice, muscle memory buried under survival instincts. But it came back in pieces. The way light changed color, how shadows weren't black but blue and purple and green. The meditation of it, losing time to the work. She painted until the light died, until Rosa called up that dinner was ready. At the table, Adrian asked, "How was it?" "Strange," she admitted, "like remembering a language I used to speak." "Good. Strange or bad strange?" "I'm not sure yet." He nodded, didn't push. That was becoming his pattern, offering space, waiting for her to fill it or not. It should have been relief, but part of her kept waiting for the trap, the moment when his patience would crack and reveal what he really wanted. 3 weeks passed in careful routine. Alara painted most days, slowly finding her rhythm again. Adrian worked, disappeared into his office for hours, took calls in rooms she didn't enter. They ate dinner together when he was home, conversations cautious but gradually less strained. He told her things. Small things at first. His mother had died when he was young. His father had raised him in the business, expected him to be ruthless, and was mostly disappointed by Adrian's attempts at alternatives. He liked old movies, the kind shot in black and white. He'd wanted to be an architect once. "Why didn't you?" Alara asked one night. Family business doesn't leave much room for other careers. His expression was dry. Veil men have certain obligations. "Do you hate it?" He considered that. "I hate parts of it. The violence, the way we treat people like commodities. But I'm good at it, and being good at something gives you power to change it. Eventually." "You think you can change it?" "I'm trying to." He paused. "My father runs things a certain way, old school. When he's gone, I'll run them differently." "How differently?" "Less blood, more business, actual protection instead of extortion. It's not perfect, but it's better than what we have." Alara studied him. "Does your father know you think that?" "He suspects. We fight about it constantly." Adrian's mouth twisted. "He thinks I'm soft, weak, that kindness will get me killed." "Will it?" "Maybe, but I'd rather die trying to be decent than live being him." The honesty of it surprised her. Men in their world didn't admit vulnerability, didn't question the systems that fed them. But Adrian did, casually, like it was obvious. "What about you?" he asked. What did you want to be before painting? No one had ever asked her that either. I don't think I was allowed to want things like that. Career wasn't discussed as possibility. It is now. She didn't know what to do with that either, but slowly, carefully, she started imagining. What would she study if she could? Art, maybe, or literature. She'd always loved reading, the way books let her disappear into other lives. There's a university nearby, Adrian mentioned casually a few days later. They have good arts program, extension courses too, if you wanted to try something without committing to full degree. I don't have a high school diploma, she admitted. My education was private tutors who stopped coming when I turned 18. You can get a GED. Or some universities take mature students without it if you show portfolio. He said it like it was simple. I know people on the admissions board, not to pull strings, just to make sure they actually look at your application. You're very good at fixing problems. Is that what this is? Isn't it? Adrian set down his fork, met her eyes. You're not a problem, Alara. You're a person who had opportunities stolen from her. I'm just trying to give them back. Why? The question came out sharper than she meant. Why do you care so much? He was quiet for a long moment. Because I know what it's like to be trapped in a life you didn't choose, and I have enough power to help you out of yours. It seems like the least I can do. The least you could do is leave me alone. Is that what you want? She didn't answer because she didn't know anymore. That night, Alara stood in front of her latest painting, an abstract thing, all dark blues and grays, chaos trying to find structure. It wasn't good, not yet, but it was honest. That counted for something. A knock on the doorframe made her turn. Adrian stood there, hands in his pockets, careful not to enter without invitation. Can I see? He asked. She hesitated, then nodded. He came in, studied the canvas for a long moment. It's angry, he said finally. Is that bad? No, it's real. He glanced at her. You're allowed to be angry. I'm not angry. Liar. But he said it gently. Alara looked back at the painting. Maybe he was right. Maybe the chaos on the canvas was rage finally finding voice. My father called today, Adrian said. Yours did too. They want us to attend a dinner next week. Business associates, potential partners. Very formal. Her stomach dropped. I don't want to go. I know, but refusing would raise questions we're not ready to answer yet. He paused. I'll be with you the whole time, and we can leave whenever you want. That's not the point. I know that too. Adrian moved closer, not touching but near enough that she felt his presence. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell them no. But we're still playing parts right now, and breaking character too soon would be dangerous. For both of us. She hated that he was right. What parts are we playing? Happy newlyweds, solid alliance. Everything they expected when they arranged this. And what are we actually? I don't know yet. His honesty was becoming familiar. What do you want us to be? Alara didn't have an answer. Some days Adrian felt like captor dressed as savior. Other days he felt like the only person who'd ever seen her as human. Both things existed at once, contradictions she couldn't resolve. I'll go to the dinner, she said, but I'm leaving the moment it becomes unbearable. Deal. The week passed too quickly. Rosa took her shopping for appropriate dress, something elegant enough for the occasion. Alara chose black, safe, forgettable, armor she knew how to wear. The night of the dinner, she stood in front of her mirror while Rosa helped with her hair and felt herself slipping back into old patterns. The blankness, the performance, the girl who disappeared. You look beautiful, Rosa said softly. Alara saw a ghost. Downstairs, Adrian waited in a suit that made him look dangerous again, back to the version of himself the world expected. But when he saw her on the stairs, something softened in his expression. You okay? He asked quietly. No? Honest. Good. He offered his arm. Let's get this over with. The restaurant was exclusive, the kind where reservations required connections, and the menu had no prices. They were led to a private room where both sets of parents already waited, along with several men Alara didn't recognize, and a few she did, associates of her father's, people who dealt in things that required discretion. Her father barely glanced at her. Her mother gave her the once-over, found nothing to criticize, and returned to her conversation. Adrian's father, Marcus Vale, was harder to ignore. He watched them both with sharp eyes, assessing, measuring. Adrian, good of you to join us. Marcus's voice was gravel. And Alara, you look well. Thank you, she managed. They took their seats. Adrian's hand found hers under the table, squeezed once, anchoring. The dinner was performance art disguised as meal. Courses appeared and disappeared. Conversation flowed around topics that sounded legitimate but carried double meanings. Contracts were discussed without mentioning what they actually covered. Territory was negotiated through talk of market expansion. Alara had grown up in this world. She knew the language, the codes, but she'd never been expected to participate, only observe. Now, as Adrian's wife, people addressed her directly. "And what do you think, Mrs. Vale?" one of the associates asked. "Should we pursue the northern opportunities?" She had no idea what northern opportunities meant in their context. Drugs, probably. Or weapons. Maybe both. "I think my husband's judgment is sound," she said carefully. The perfect deflection. Adrian squeezed her hand again. Warning or comfort, she wasn't sure. "Of course," the man said, losing interest. Her father finally looked at her then. Really looked, the way he used to when checking if she'd followed instructions. "You've adjusted well to married life." It wasn't a question, it was evaluation. "Yes," she said. "Good. The alliance has been beneficial already. We're finalizing several deals that wouldn't have been possible before your union. So she was useful. That's all this was. All she'd ever been." "I'm glad," she said, each word careful. "You should be." Her father's attention had already moved on. "Adrian, your father and I were discussing the eastern expansion. Your input would be valuable." And just like that, she was dismissed. Irrelevant again. But Adrian didn't let go of her hand. "My wife's input is valuable too," he said calmly. "Alara, what do you think about expanding territory when our current holdings aren't fully stabilized?" Every person at the table turned to look at her. Her father's expression was ice. Marcus Vale looked amused. The associate seemed confused that she was being consulted. Alara's heart hammered. This was test. From Adrian or from them, she wasn't sure. "I think expansion for its own sake is weakness disguised as strength," she said, the words coming from some deep place she'd kept buried. "If you can't hold what you have, taking more just spreads you thinner." Silence. Her father's face had gone cold. Then Marcus Vale laughed. "She's not wrong. Adrian, your wife has good instincts." "I know," Adrian said simply. The conversation moved on, but the damage was done. Her father's anger was palpable, controlled but present. He would remember this. Remember that she'd spoken up, had opinion, had been valued for it. She'd broken protocol. 20 minutes later, Alara stood abruptly. "Excuse me, I need air." Adrian was on his feet immediately. "I'll come with you." "No, stay. I just need a moment." She left before anyone could stop her, found the bathroom, locked herself in a stall, and tried to breathe through the panic. She'd spoken. She'd had opinion. In front of her father, she demonstrated that she could think. He would punish her for that. Maybe not tonight, but eventually. That's how it worked. The bathroom door opened. Footsteps. Then her mother's voice. "Alara?" She didn't answer. "I know you're here. Come out." Slowly, she unlocked the stall. Her mother stood by the sinks, expression unreadable. "That was foolish," her mother said. "I know. Adrian asked your opinion directly. You couldn't refuse without making him look weak." Alara blinked. "Was that defense?" "Your father is angry," her mother continued, but Marcus Vale was impressed. And in the end, Marcus's opinion matters more. She paused. "Adrian is protecting you. By valuing your input publicly, he's establishing that you're not just asset, you're partner." "I don't understand." "No, you wouldn't." Her mother's expression was almost sad. "I couldn't do what you're doing. I chose survival over selfhood, too young to remember there was choice. But Adrian is giving you something different. Don't waste it." "Why are you telling me this?" Her mother looked at her for a long moment. "Because I may have failed you in many ways, but I don't want you to be me." Then she left, the door swinging shut behind her. Alara stood alone, trying to process. Her mother had never spoken to her like that, had never admitted failure or regret. What had changed? When she returned to the table, Adrian's eyes found her immediately, concern clear. She nodded slightly. I'm okay. The dinner concluded an hour later. Adrian made their excuses gracefully. Early morning, previous commitments. In the car heading home, he turned to her. Huss, that was brave, he said. What you said about expansion. It was stupid. My father will be furious. Your father is always furious, and you were right. Adrian paused. Marcus respected it. That matters more in the long run. My mother said the same thing. She spoke to you? Alara relayed the conversation. Adrian listened, expression thoughtful. Your mother is smarter than people give her credit for, he said finally. She knows how to read power, and she sees that you have it now, through me. She's telling you to use it. I don't want power. Maybe not. But you need protection, and power is how you get it in our world. He looked at her. I meant what I said. Your opinion matters to me. I wasn't performing for the table. Then why ask in front of everyone? Because I'm establishing that you're not decoration. You're my wife, which in our world means you're extension of my authority. If I value you, others have to as well. Or deal with me. The calculation of it should have been cold, but somehow it wasn't. He was weaponizing respect on her behalf. I don't know how to navigate this, she admitted. Neither do I. We'll figure it out together. Home felt like sanctuary after the restaurant's performance. Alara went straight upstairs, changed into comfortable clothes, washed off the makeup and the pretense. When she came back down, Adrian was in the library, drink in hand, staring at nothing. You okay? She asked. He glanced up, managed a tired smile. That's supposed to be my line. Answer the question. I hate those dinners, sitting there pretending we're legitimate businessmen when everyone knows what we really do. He took a drink. My father was in rare form tonight. He seemed pleased you're married. He's pleased the alliance is working. He doesn't care about anything beyond that. Adrian's expression was bitter. He told me before we left that I need to get you pregnant soon. Secure the bloodline. Make sure your father can't back out of the arrangement. Alara's blood went cold. What did you tell him? That my marriage is none of his business. Adrian met her eyes. I'm not pressuring you about that, Alara. Ever. That's your choice. Your body. Your timeline. If ever. He won't accept that answer. He doesn't have to. I'm not having a child to satisfy business arrangement. His voice was firm. When I become father, if I become father, it'll be because I want to be, with someone who wants it too, not because Marcus Vale demands an heir. The conviction in his voice surprised her. You've thought about this? Of course I have. I've spent my whole life being raised as commodity, groomed for role I didn't choose. I won't do that to another person. He paused. Did your father ever ask what you wanted? No? Mine neither. Funny how they expect us to build better empires while treating us exactly the same way. Alara sat down across from him. Can I ask you something? Always. What do you actually want? From this marriage, from me? Not what your father wants or what the alliance requires. What do you want? Adrian was quiet for a long time. Honestly, I want you to be okay. To find whatever version of yourself got buried under their expectations and bring her back. He paused. And I want to know her when she shows up. If she'll let me. That's not much to ask for yourself. Maybe, but I've spent so long managing expectations and playing roles that the idea of just existing with someone who sees me as human sounds revolutionary. He smiled slightly. You're the only person who questions me, who doesn't automatically defer or fear me. It's refreshing. I definitely still fear you sometimes. I know. I'm working on that. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, rain started, gentle against the windows. My mother said something else tonight, Alara said eventually. She said Adrian is giving you something different. Don't waste it. She looked at him. What did she mean? Choice, probably. Agency. The things she never had. Adrian leaned forward. Your mother married young too, arranged like you. But she didn't have a husband who wanted her free. She had your father who wanted property. You really think you're different? I'm trying to be. Trying isn't the same as succeeding. No, it's not. He didn't look away. Which is why I need you to keep challenging me, keep questioning. If I ever start treating you like possession instead of person, I need you to call me on it. And if you don't listen, then you leave. We've been over this. You say that like it's simple. It's not simple, but it's true. Adrian's expression was serious. I've set money aside in an account only you can access. Passport, documents, everything you'd need to disappear if you wanted. Rosa knows where they are. So do you now. Alara stared at him. You're serious. Completely. I'm not trapping you here, Alara. If this marriage becomes cage, I want you to have key. She didn't know what to say to that. Every instinct told her it was trick, elaborate manipulation. But she'd been watching him for weeks now, and nothing in his actions contradicted his words. Why are you like this? She asked quietly. Like what? Different from them. From our fathers, from the men in this world. Adrian looked away, expression distant. When I was 12, my father took me to warehouse. Said I needed to learn the business, understand what we did. There was man there, tied to chair. Father said he'd stolen from us. Needed to be made example. He paused. He made me watch while they beat him. And when it was over, when the man was barely conscious, Father handed me a gun and told me to finish it. Alara's breath caught. I couldn't do it. I froze. And Father, he was so disappointed. Called me weak, soft, said I'd never survive in this world if I couldn't do what was necessary. Adrian's jaw tightened. He did it himself. Shot the man right in front of me. Then he told me that mercy was luxury we couldn't afford. What happened to you? I learned to fake it, to be ruthless when I had to be, to make the hard calls. But I never forgot that man's face or the way Father looked at me when I couldn't pull the trigger. He met her eyes. I decided then that if I ever had power, I'd use it differently. That I wouldn't create more victims just because I could. Your father calls that weakness. I know, and maybe he's right. Maybe it will get me killed eventually. Adrian's expression was tired. But I'd rather die being decent than live being him. I told you that before. I thought you were performing, saying what I wanted to hear. I don't perform with you. I don't have the energy for it. He smiled slightly. You see through it anyway. That was probably true. Alara had spent her life reading people, looking for danger. She'd gotten good at spotting lies. She didn't see them in Adrian. I'm starting to trust you, she admitted. That terrifies me. Good. You should be terrified. Trust is dangerous. He leaned back. But so is never trusting anyone. You get to decide which risk feels worth taking. What if I'm wrong? Then you'll survive and be smarter next time. You're good at surviving. I'm tired of surviving. Then start living. He said it simply. Paint, read, take those university courses. Find out who you are when you're not afraid. And if I don't like who that is, then you'll change. People aren't static, Alara. We get to keep choosing who we want to be. She wanted to believe that. Wanted to believe she could be more than the scared girl who'd learned to disappear. I should sleep, she said, standing. Thank you for tonight, for defending me. I didn't do anything you didn't deserve. That's not how most people see it. I'm not most people. Adrian stood too. Sleep well. And Alara? What you said at dinner about expansion being weakness? That was brilliant. Don't let your father make you doubt it. She nodded, headed upstairs. In her room, she sat by the window and watched the rain. Her mother's words kept circling. Adrian is giving you something different. Don't waste it. Maybe she wouldn't. Maybe she'd take the risk, lean into the possibility that this strange, careful marriage could become something real. Or maybe it would all fall apart and she'd learn that trust was a mistake after all. But tonight, in the quiet dark with rain against glass, Alara let herself imagine. What would she study? Where would she go? Who would she become? The questions felt dangerous and thrilling at once. In the morning, she'd start finding answers. But morning brought something else entirely. Alara woke to raised voices downstairs. Adrian's, tight with anger. Someone else's, unfamiliar. She pulled on a robe and crept to the top of the stairs, staying out of sight. You had no right, Adrian was saying. We discussed this. I told you no surveillance. Your father ordered it. The other voice was male, defensive. I report to him, not you. In my house? On my wife? She's a Moretti. Protocol requires get out. Adrian's voice dropped to something dangerous. And tell my father if he wants to discuss my marriage. He can call me himself instead of sending his dogs to install cameras. Cameras. Ilara's stomach lurched. She pressed back against the wall, heart hammering. The front door slammed. Footsteps in the hall below, then Adrian's voice, quieter now. Rosa, check every room. I want every device found and destroyed. Of course. Rosa's tone was grim. More footsteps heading toward the stairs. Ilara fled back to her room, sat on the bed, trying to control her breathing. Cameras. They'd been watching her, while she painted, while she slept, while she tried to build something that felt like safety. A knock on her door. Ilara, I know you're awake. I heard you on the stairs. She didn't answer. I'm coming in. The door opened. Adrian stood there, fury still evident in every line of his body, but his expression softened when he saw her face. You heard. Cameras, she managed. Your father was watching me. Not anymore. Rosa's removing them now. He moved into the room slowly, like approaching spooked animal. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. How could you not know? This is your house. My father has access I haven't revoked yet. Old security protocols from before I took over this property. Adrian's jaw was tight. That's changing today. I'm having everything swept, new systems installed, locks changed. No one gets in here without going through me. Ilara laughed. Brittle. More locks. That'll fix it. What do you want me to say? I'm sorry. I'm furious. I'm firing everyone who knew about this and didn't tell me. He stopped in front of her. This is exactly what I was trying to prevent. But you couldn't prevent it because your father has more power than you do. The words landed like blows. Adrian flinched but didn't deny it. Right now, yes. He's still head of the family, still controls most of the operations. He paused. But that won't always be true. And in the meantime, I'm putting safeguards in place. Safeguards. She stood, anger finally cutting through the shock. I've been here almost 2 months thinking I was building something, privacy, safety. Turns out it was just another cage with better lighting. That's not fair. Isn't it? You knew your father would do something like this. You knew how they operate, and you brought me here anyway. Her voice rose. You told me I was safe, that this was my space, but it was all performance, just like everything else. I believed it was safe. I thought I'd established enough boundaries that he'd respect them. Adrian's hands clenched. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. No, it doesn't. He met her eyes. What do you need from me? I need the truth. All of it. Ilara stepped closer. You said you'd been watching me for 3 years. How? What? How are you watching me? You said it wasn't surveillance, but how else would you notice me across crowded rooms, remember what I wore, see me flinch? Adrian's expression changed, guilt replacing anger. Tell me, she demanded. Your father had you followed sometimes. Low-level surveillance to make sure you weren't doing anything that might embarrass him. He spoke carefully. Those reports came across my desk occasionally. Business intelligence. I started reading them because your name caught my attention. The words didn't make sense at first. Then they did, crashing down like cold water. You read surveillance reports about me. Yes, for 3 years. Not constantly, just when they crossed my desk. And you didn't think that was worth mentioning. Her voice shook. You let me think you just noticed me casually, romantically even. But you were reading files on me like I was target. It wasn't like that. What was it like then? Explain it to me. She was shouting now, past caring. Explain how reading surveillance on someone for 3 years is different from stalking. Adrian looked like she'd hit him. I thought I was protecting you. When I saw what your father had people watching you for, making sure you weren't forming attachments, wasn't trying to leave, I started flagging those reports as unnecessary, getting them stopped. You stopped them. Most of them. Not all. I didn't have full authority yet. He paused. But I made it harder for your father to keep tabs on you. That's why I knew about the wedding early. He needed my cooperation to continue monitoring you, and I refused unless it was for legitimate security concerns. Ilara sat back down, trying to process. So you were in my life for 3 years, and I never knew. Yes. And when you agreed to marry me, it wasn't just alliance. It was continuation of something you'd already been part of. I agreed to marry you because I saw a chance to get you out from under his surveillance entirely, to give you actual freedom. Adrian's voice was rough. I know how that sounds. I know it's fucked up, but I thought marrying you was better than watching him control you from distance. So you could control me up close instead. No, so I could remove his control entirely. But you're still part of the same system. Your father just proved that. She looked at him. How am I supposed to trust anything you say when I keep finding out you've been lying? I haven't lied to you. I've been honest about everything except how I first noticed you. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I should have told you about the reports. You're right. But I was afraid you'd see it the way you're seeing it now, as violation instead of protection. It is violation. I know. I'm not defending it. I'm explaining it. Adrian moved to this window, stared out. I've spent my whole life in this world where information is currency and surveillance is normal. I forget sometimes that what feels like due diligence to me feels like invasion to anyone sane. That's not an excuse. No, it's not. It's just truth. He turned back to her. What do you want to do? About what? About this. About us. You want to leave? I'll arrange it today. New identity, money, anywhere you want to go. You want to stay, but never speak to me again. I'll move out and you can have the house. Whatever you need. Alara stared at him. Part of her wanted to run, to get as far from this mess as possible. But another part, the part that had started painting again, that had imagined university courses and maybe something like normal life, that part didn't want to lose what she'd been building, even if the foundation was cracked. I want you to stop making decisions for me, she said finally, even when you think they're protective, even when you think you know better. Done. And I want to know everything, every connection between you and my father, every deal, every surveillance report you ever read, everything. Adrian hesitated. Some of that information is dangerous. I don't care. I'm tired of being protected from truth. Her voice was firm. You said I wasn't decoration. Prove it. Treat me like partner who can handle reality. He studied her for a long moment. Okay, I'll tell you everything. Now. Now? Right now, before I lose my nerve or you find excuse to delay. Alara crossed her arms. Start talking. Adrian moved to the chair by her window, sat heavily. Where do you want me to start? The first surveillance report. When was it? 3.5 years ago, December. There was holiday party at the Carmichael estate. Your father had someone tailing you to make sure you didn't speak to certain people. Rival family members, law enforcement, anyone who might use you for information. What did the report say? That you stood by the windows most of the night, spoke to no one unless directly addressed, left early with a headache. He paused. The person writing it noted that you seemed depressed. The memory surfaced. She'd been 21, miserable, counting minutes until she could leave. She'd had headache because her mother had insisted on painful hairstyle. What else? The next few were similar. Observations at events, noting who you spoke to, where you went. Nothing exciting. Adrian's expression was careful. Then there was one from the Marchetti wedding, the one I mentioned before. What did it say? That you flinched when glass broke nearby. That you left the reception twice to stand in the garden alone. That you refused champagne when offered. His voice was quiet. And that the person following you was concerned you might be planning to run. I wasn't. I know, but your father worried you might try, so he had them watching for signs. Alara felt sick. How many reports were there total? Maybe 15 over 3 years, not constant surveillance, just periodic checks. Adrian met her eyes. After I started intervening, they dropped to maybe 4 or 5. Your father complained about it, but I convinced him you were low risk and the surveillance was waste of resources. By offering to marry me instead. That came later, but yes, eventually. He leaned forward. Alara, I know this sounds like I engineered everything, but I didn't. Your father proposed the marriage. I just saw opportunity and took it. Opportunity to do what exactly? Get you away from him, give you choice. Adrian's expression was intense. I watched you disappear for 3 years. Watched reports document you becoming smaller, quieter, less.
And I knew what that meant because I'd lived it. So when your father offered marriage, I said yes because it meant you'd be with me instead of whoever else he might choose. Someone who wouldn't care about your autonomy. Someone who wouldn't read surveillance reports on me first. That's fair. He didn't look away. I'm not claiming moral high ground here.
I'm just telling you what happened and why. Alara processed that. The anger was still there, sharp and valid. But so was understanding. Adrian had been raised in a world where surveillance was normal, where gathering intelligence before making moves was basic strategy. He'd applied those same tactics to her, thinking he was helping. It didn't make it okay, but it made it comprehensible. What about the cameras? She asked. Did you know about those at all? No. My father must have installed them through old security contractor, someone loyal to him instead of me. Adrian's anger returned. But that ends today. New systems, new protocols, new contractors who report only to me, and I'm having Rosa do random sweeps weekly to make sure nothing gets added without my knowledge. Your knowledge, not mine. He caught himself. Our knowledge. You're right. You should know how security works here, who has access, what the protocols are. I'll walk you through everything once it's set up. And if I want cameras removed entirely, then we remove them. Your call. He paused. Though I'd argue that some external security is necessary given who we are and who might target us. But internal cameras in private spaces? Never again. That seemed reasonable. Alara hated that he was being reasonable. I need time, she said, to think about all of this. Take whatever you need. And I want you to sleep somewhere else tonight. Maybe a few nights. Adrian nodded, stood. I'll stay at my office downtown. Rosa has my number if you need anything. One more thing. Anything. If I find out you've lied to me again. About anything. I'm gone. No second chances, no explanations. Done. Understood. Adrian moved toward the door, stopped. For what it's worth, I never wanted to hurt you. I know that's not enough, but it's true. Then he left, and Alara was alone with the wreckage of her fragile trust. Rosa appeared in the doorway minutes later, tools in hand. Found 3 cameras so far. Living room, kitchen, and hallway. Checking bedrooms next. Did they record audio too? Looks like it. Rosa's expression was furious. Mr. Vale Sr. is old school, doesn't trust anyone, thinks everyone's plotting. It's paranoid and invasive. Did you know? About the cameras? No. I'd have torn them down myself. Rosa moved into the room, started checking corners, light fixtures. Adrian's many things, but he doesn't lie about respecting privacy. If he'd known, they'd have been gone immediately. But his father has access to this house. Had access. Not anymore. Rosa found another camera, tiny thing hidden in smoke detector. She disconnected it with sharp movements. Adrian's changing everything. Locks, codes, contractor lists. Marcus Vale won't be able to scratch his nose in this house by tonight. Alara watched her work. How long have you known Adrian? 14 years. Since he was 16 and angry at the world. Rosa smiled slightly. He's changed a lot since then. Gotten quieter, more careful. But the core of him, the part that hates what his family does, that's always been there. You trust him. With my life. And yours for what it's worth. Rosa finished checking the room. No more cameras in here. I'll do the rest of the house. After she left, Alara stood in the center of her bedroom, her supposedly safe space, and felt violated all over again. How many times had she painted in the third-floor studio while Marcus Vale watched? How many conversations with Adrian had been recorded and analyzed? Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, then reconsidered. Hello? You should leave him. Her father's voice cold and flat. Her blood froze. What? Adrian, leave him. Come home. I don't understand. My arrangement with the Vales was contingent on Adrian maintaining control of his household. He can't even keep his own father from surveilling his wife. Her father's tone was disgusted. That's weakness. I won't have my daughter tied to weakness. This is my home now. Not for long. I'm meeting with Marcus tomorrow to discuss dissolution of the marriage. You'll be back in my house by the end of the week. Terror and rage competed in her chest. You can't do that. I can and will. This alliance is failing. Because your paranoia required cameras in my bedroom? Silence. Then, you knew about the surveillance? I know now, and I know you've been having me followed since I was 21. Alara's voice shook. Did you really think I'd never find out? It was for your protection. It was for your control, just like bringing me back would be. She took a breath. I'm not leaving Adrian. I'm not coming back to your house. And if you try to force me, I'll make sure everyone in our world knows exactly how you've treated me for the past decade. You're threatening me? Her father sounded almost amused. I'm establishing boundaries, something I should have done years ago. You've been with Adrian too long. He's made you think you have power. Her father's voice hardened. You don't. You're still my daughter, still subject to my authority. Actually, I'm Adrian's wife, legally, which means your authority ended when I signed those papers. Alara felt something shift in her chest. Strength, maybe? Or just exhaustion with fear. And even if it didn't, I'm 23 years old, adult, I can make my own choices. Choices, he laughed. You've never made a choice in your life. You've been told what to do and you've obeyed. That's all you know. Then I'm learning something new. She hung up. Her hands were shaking, but she felt weirdly calm. She'd just told her father no. Direct defiance. The kind of thing that used to earn locked doors and silent meals and weeks of psychological warfare. But she wasn't in his house anymore. The phone rang again, same number. She declined the call. It rang again. She blocked it. Then she called Adrian. Alara, are you okay? My father just called. He's meeting with yours tomorrow to discuss ending our marriage. The words tumbled out. He says the alliance is failing because you can't control your household. Adrian swore quietly. What did you tell him? That I'm not leaving, that I'm staying with you. She paused. Was that the right answer? It's the only answer if it's what you actually want, is it? Alara thought about the cameras, the surveillance, the lies by omission. Then she thought about painting again, about university courses and Rosa's kindness and Adrian's careful respect for her space and choices, about the possibility of becoming someone beyond her father's expectations. Yes, she said, I want to stay. Then we fight for it. Adrian's voice was firm. I'll handle my father. You don't have to deal with yours again if you don't want to. He'll keep calling. Then we change your number. Get you a new phone. Pause. Alara, if you're serious about staying, about making this work despite everything that's happened, then we do it right. We cut off their access completely. To you, to us, to our lives. Is that possible? I'll make it possible. He sounded determined. My father's been running things his way for too long. It's time I establish my own rules. That sounds dangerous. It is, but less dangerous than letting them keep controlling us. Adrian's voice softened. You stood up to your father today. That took real courage. Let me stand up to mine. After they hung up, Alara sat on her bed and tried to process what she'd done. She'd chosen. Actually chosen. Not to run, not to obey, but to fight for something she'd barely begun to build. It terrified her. Rosa appeared with dinner on a tray. Thought you might not want to come downstairs. Thank you. Adrian called, asked me to tell you he's meeting with his father tonight instead of waiting until tomorrow. Rosa set the tray down. He's going to war for you. You know that, right? I didn't ask him to. No, but he's doing it anyway, because that's who he is when he cares about something. Rosa paused. He cares about you. More than he's cared about anyone in a long time. How can you tell? Because I've never seen him change security protocols, fire contractors, and prepare to fight his father all in one day. Not for business, not for territory, only for you. After Rosa left, Alara picked at the food and thought about what caring meant in their world. It looked different than in normal lives. It came with violence and strategy and calculated risks. But maybe it still counted. Her new phone arrived that evening, delivered by someone who worked for Adrian. New number, new contacts, a clean slate. She called Adrian on his new number. How did it go? He's furious. Adrian sounded tired. Threatened to cut me off from family resources, told me I'm too weak to lead, said choosing you over the alliance was biggest mistake of my life. I'm sorry. Don't be. He's been saying versions of that since I was 12. Pause. But I got what I wanted. He's backing off the marriage dissolution. For now. What changed his mind? I told him if he tried to break our marriage, I'd expose every illegal operation he's run in the past decade. Federal authorities, media, everything. Adrian's voice was quiet. Mutually assured destruction. It's the only language he understands. Ilara's breath caught. You'd actually do that? To protect you? Yes.
But it would destroy your family, your life. My life was already heading somewhere I didn't want to go. You gave me reason to change direction. He paused. I mean it, Ilara. I'm choosing you, even if you're still figuring out whether you choose me back. She didn't know what to say to that. Get some rest, Adrian said gently. We'll figure out the next steps tomorrow. But Ilara couldn't rest. She painted instead, working late into the night on canvas that grew darker and more chaotic as hours passed. Cameras and surveillance reports and choices that weren't choices, trust fractured and rebuilt and fractured again. By morning, the painting was finished. Terrible and honest and hers. Adrian came home around 10. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept. But he smiled when he saw her in the kitchen. You're still here. Where else would I be? Honestly, I thought you might have left in the night. He poured coffee. Wouldn't have blamed you. I thought about it, she admitted, but I decided running away from problems just means carrying them to new location. Might as well deal with them here. Practical. Tired of being afraid. Ilara watched him. You look terrible. Thanks. You look like you didn't sleep either. I painted instead. Can I see? She led him upstairs to the studio. The new painting dominated the space, aggressive and raw. Adrian stood in front of it for a long time. It's angry, he said finally. You said I'm allowed to be angry. You are, he turned to her. This is really good, Ilara. Like, objectively good. You have talent. Don't patronize me. I'm not. I know nothing about art, but I know this makes me feel something. That counts. He paused. Have you thought more about university? You could submit this as portfolio piece. The idea hadn't occurred to her. You really think so? I really do. Adrian moved closer. I know everything's a mess right now. I know you're still figuring out whether you can trust me, but don't let that stop you from building your life. Whatever happens between us, you deserve to become whoever you want to be. Even if who I want to be is angry artist who doesn't forgive easily? Especially then. He almost smiled. I like that version of you better than the one who disappeared. They stood in the studio, morning light making the paint colors sharper, and Ilara felt something shift. The anger was still there. The betrayal hadn't magically healed, but underneath it was something else. Partnership, maybe, the beginning of it. I need time, she said, to process everything, to figure out what I actually want from this marriage. Take it. But I'm not leaving. I'm staying, and I'm going to apply to university, and I'm going to keep painting. She met his eyes. And you're going to tell me the truth about everything. No more protective omissions. Deal. Even when the truth is ugly. Especially then. Ilara nodded. Okay, then we try this. Actually try. Okay. They went downstairs together. Rosa had made breakfast, was setting the table when they entered. She looked between them, smiled slightly. We good? She asked. Working on it, Ilara said. Good enough. Rosa gestured to the food. Eat. Both of you look half dead. They sat across from each other like they had so many times before, but it felt different now. Less performance, more truth. Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, expression hardening. What? Your father. He's here. The doorbell rang before Ilara could respond. Rosa went to answer it, returned looking grim. Mr. Moretti is requesting to speak with his daughter. Ilara's stomach dropped. Adrian stood immediately. Tell him no. She doesn't want to see him. I can tell him myself, Ilara said, standing too. Her legs felt unsteady, but she forced them straight. Let him in. Ilara, I need to do this. She looked at Adrian. But stay close? Always. Her father entered the kitchen like he owned it. expensive suit and cold eyes surveying the space with obvious disdain. His gaze landed on Alara. "We need to talk. Alone." "No." Her voice came out stronger than she felt. "Anything you have to say, you can say in front of Adrian."
Her father's expression didn't change. "Very well. You're making a mistake staying in this marriage. Adrian can't protect you from his father, can't even protect you from surveillance in his own home. You're better off back where you belong." "I don't belong to you anymore. You're still my daughter." "Legally, maybe, but that's all." Alara felt Adrian's presence behind her, steadying. "I'm not coming back. I'm building a life here, and you're not part of it." "A life?" Her father's tone was mocking. "Playing house with a man who kept files on you for 3 years. That's your idea of freedom?" The word struck, but she didn't let him see it. "Better than a life with someone who had me followed because he was afraid I might have thoughts he didn't approve of. I was protecting you. You were controlling me. There's a difference." She stepped forward. "And I'm done being controlled. By you, by your expectations, by your fear of what I might become if given actual choice." Her father studied her for a long moment. "You've changed." "Yes. It won't last. This rebellion, this fantasy of independence. You'll realize soon enough that you need protection, structure, someone to make decisions for you." He glanced at Adrian. "And when that happens, he won't be enough." "Maybe," Alara said. "Or maybe I'll surprise us both by being stronger than you ever gave me credit for." Her father turned to leave, stopped at the door. "When this fails, and it will, don't come crawling back. I won't take you in again." "I'm counting on it." He left. The door closed. Alara's legs gave out and she sat hard in the nearest chair. Adrian was beside her immediately. "You okay?" "I think I just burned every bridge." "You established boundaries. That's different." "It doesn't feel different." Her hands were shaking. "It feels terrifying." "Yeah, freedom usually does at first." Adrian crouched in front of her. "But you did it. You stood up to him, said no, meant it. That's huge." Alara looked at him. "What if he's right? What if this all falls apart? Then we handle it, together." Adrian's expression was serious. "I'm not going anywhere, Alara, not unless you tell me to. And even then, I'm making sure you have everything you need." "Why?" "Because you deserve it. And because I'm tired of living in a world where people are disposable." He paused. "I want to build something better. With you, if you'll let me." She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this strange, damaged marriage could become something real. Maybe it already had. "Okay," she said quietly. "Let's build something better." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was choice. And choice, terrifying as it was, felt like freedom. 3 months into building something better, reality caught up to them in the worst possible way. Alara was at the university for her portfolio review when Adrian's call came through. She'd submitted her application 2 weeks ago, been invited to present her work in person. The meeting had gone well, better than well. The admissions counselor had called her work raw and compelling, suggested she consider the advanced track. She was walking to her car, still buzzing with possibility, when her phone rang. "Hey," she answered. "You won't believe what just happened. Where are you?" Adrian's voice was tight, controlled in a way that made her stomach drop. "Leaving campus. What's wrong?" "Get home. Now. Don't stop anywhere. Don't talk to anyone. Just come straight home." "Adrian, you're scaring me." "I know. I'm sorry. But I need you safe before I explain." Pause. "Please, Alara, trust me on this." She did, which terrified her almost as much as his tone. "I'm coming." The drive home took 20 minutes that felt like hours. Her mind raced through possibilities, each worse than the last. Had her father done something? Marcus? Was Adrian hurt? Security she didn't recognize stood outside the house. They nodded as she passed, professional and alert. Inside, she found Adrian in his office with 3 men she'd never seen, papers spread across his desk, his expression carved from stone. He looked up when she entered, and relief crossed his face so quickly she almost missed it. "Excuse us," he said to the men. They filed out without question. When they were alone, Adrian moved around the desk and pulled her into an embrace so sudden and fierce that she froze before slowly relaxing into it. What happened? She asked against his shoulder. He pulled back, hands on her arms, eyes searching her face. There's been a leak. Someone in my organization has been feeding information to the Castellanos. The name made her blood cold. The Castellano family controlled territory south of the city, had been rivals with the Vales for decades. Uneasy peace maintained through mutual destruction assurance, but peace nonetheless. What kind of information? Financial routes, safe houses, supply chains. Adrian's jaw was tight. And personal details about us. Our marriage, where you go, what you do. They know about me. They know enough to use you as leverage if they want to. He guided her to the chair, crouched in front of her. I'm handling it. New security, limited information sharing, full investigation into who's leaking. But until we find them, you're at risk. What does that mean? It means I need you to change your routine. No more solo trips to campus, grocery store, anywhere. Security goes with you, or I do, or you stay home. The walls closed in immediately. You're putting me in a cage. I'm keeping you alive. Adrian's expression was pained. I know how this sounds. I know it feels like I'm taking away everything we've built. But the Castellanos don't play games, Alara. If they think hurting you will hurt me, they won't hesitate. So because someone in your organization betrayed you, I lose my freedom again. Temporarily. Until we solve this. And if you don't solve it, if the threat is permanent, her voice rose. Do I just accept that leaving the house alone is luxury I can't afford anymore? No, I'll figure something out. But right now, today, I need you safe. He took her hands. Please, work with me on this. Alara wanted to fight, to rage against the unfairness. She'd finally started building a life. University applications, painting classes she'd enrolled in, coffee shops where she'd begun meeting other students. And now it was being stripped away because of a world she'd never chosen to be part of. How long? She asked quietly. I don't know, a week, maybe more, depends on how fast we identify the leak. And in the meantime, I'm prisoner again. Protected, not imprisoned. Adrian stood, frustration evident. I know you can't see the difference right now, but there is one. You're not being punished. You're being kept safe from people who would use you to get to me. Same result, though. I'm trapped. He couldn't argue with that. The next week was suffocating. Alara tried to maintain routine, painting, reading, working on university coursework she'd started online. But security was always present, hovering just outside her awareness. When she wanted to go to the art supply store, 2 guards accompanied her. When she tried to take a walk around the block, Adrian insisted on coming along. By day 5, she was crawling out of her skin. I can't do this, she told him over dinner. I'm going crazy. I know, we're close to identifying the leak. Just a few more days. You said that yesterday. And we're closer than we were yesterday. Adrian set down his fork. What do you need? Tell me and I'll make it happen. I need space. I need to breathe without someone watching. She laughed bitterly. But that's the one thing you can't give me right now. What if we went somewhere, he offered. A few days away. Somewhere secure but different. Change of scenery. With how many guards? Enough to keep you safe. So still a cage, just prettier location. Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, expression shifting. I need to take this. He left the room. Alara sat alone, picking at food she couldn't taste, feeling walls press closer. When he returned, his face was grim. They found the leak, he said. Daniel. He's been feeding information for 6 months. Daniel. She'd met him once, maybe twice. Mid-level in Adrian's organization, forgettable in the way people who blended into backgrounds were forgettable. What happens now? Now I deal with it. Adrian's tone was flat in a way that made her understand exactly what deal with it meant. You're going to kill him. I'm going to handle a betrayal that put you at risk, that put everyone at risk. He met her eyes. This is who I am, Alara. What I do. I'm not asking you to approve or participate. I'm just telling you what happens next. She knew this was coming eventually, had known from the beginning that Adrian's world involved violence, that his hands weren't clean despite his attempts at decency. But knowing abstractly and confronting it directly were different things. When? Tonight. It's already arranged. And tomorrow? After Daniel's gone, does the threat disappear? Mostly, the Castellanos lose their inside source. We'll still need to be careful for a while, make sure there aren't others, but the immediate danger decreases significantly. He paused. You'll have your freedom back, or as much as you can have given who we are. That qualifier stung because it was true. Even without active threats, she'd never have normal freedom. Not as Adrian Vale's wife, not in their world. I want to go with you, she said suddenly. Adrian's expression went blank with shock. What? Tonight, when you handle Daniel, I want to come. Absolutely not. Why? Because you don't need to see that. You don't need that in your head. He moved closer. Elara, I know you're angry about the restrictions, about losing your routine, but watching someone die won't fix that. I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm trying to understand. She stood, faced him. You keep saying I'm partner, that I'm part of this world whether I like it or not. So stop protecting me from what that actually means. Let me see it. No. You don't get to decide this for me. I do when it's about protecting you from trauma you don't need. Adrian's voice was firm. I've seen enough violence to know it doesn't leave you. It stays, creates marks you can't wash off, and I won't put those marks on you just to prove a point about partnership. What if I need to see it to really understand what I'm choosing? What staying with you actually costs? That landed. Adrian looked like she'd hit him. You think watching me kill someone will help you decide whether to stay? His voice was quiet. I think I need to stop living in the comfortable parts and pretending the ugly parts don't exist. Alara's hands were shaking, but her voice stayed steady. You read surveillance reports on me, made decisions based on information I never knew you had. This is me choosing to have information about you, about what you really are when the performance drops. Adrian was quiet for a long time. Then, if you see this, you can't unsee it. You understand that? Yes. And you might hate me after, probably will. I might, but at least it'll be honest hate based on truth instead of ignorance. He studied her, conflict clear on his face. This is a terrible idea. Probably. And you're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Adrian closed his eyes briefly. Okay, but we set rules. You stay in the car, you watch from distance, and if at any point you want to leave, we leave. No questions. Agreed. They left at midnight. The drive took them to the industrial district, warehouses and empty lots where businesses didn't ask questions about nighttime activities. Adrian's men were already there when they arrived, 2 cars parked in shadows. Daniel knelt in the center of an empty lot, hands bound, mouth gagged. Even from the car, Elara could see he was terrified. Last chance, Adrian said beside her. You can wait here, look away, I'll understand. But Elara didn't look away. She watched as Adrian got out of the car, walked toward Daniel with the casual confidence of someone who'd done this before. Watched as he removed the gag, spoke words she couldn't hear. Watched Daniel's face contort with fear and pleading. Then she watched Adrian pull a gun from his jacket, press it to Daniel's temple, and fire without hesitation. The sound was muffled through the car windows, but still loud enough to make her flinch. Daniel's body fell sideways, lifeless. Adrian stood there for a moment, expression empty. Then he turned and walked back to the car while his men dealt with the body. He got in, hand steady, face carefully blank. You saw? Yes. We can go home now. The drive back was silent. Elara kept seeing the moment. Gun, temple, the way Daniel's fear had cut off mid-expression. The casualness of it. How easily Adrian had pulled the trigger. At home, Adrian headed straight for his office. Elara followed. Talk to me, she said. About what? You saw what I am. He poured himself a drink. Was it educational? Don't do that. Don't make this into something bitter. What should I make it into? You wanted truth. I gave it to you. Adrian downed the drink. Daniel betrayed us. Put you at risk. Put everyone at risk. That's what happens to betrayers in our world. It's not complicated. Did you feel anything when you killed him? He was quiet for a long time. Honestly, relief. That the threat was gone. That you'd be safer. Maybe some regret that it was necessary. But mostly just nothing. I've done it enough times that it doesn't hit the way it used to. The admission was worse than the act somehow, that he'd killed so often it had become mechanical. How many? Elara asked. How many what? People. How many have you killed? Adrian met her eyes. Do you really want that number? Yes. 14. 15 including tonight. He said it without inflection. Some deserved it. Some were just bad luck. All of them were necessary for survival. Mine or someone else's I was protecting. 15 lives. 15 people who'd stopped existing because Adrian Vale had decided it was necessary. Are you going to be sick? He asked, watching her face. I don't know yet. She sat down. I keep trying to reconcile the man who gave me art supplies with the man who just executed someone in an empty lot. They're the same person. I've been trying to tell you that. Adrian's expression was tired. I'm not good man playing bad for survival. I'm complicated man doing terrible things for complicated reasons. Sometimes those reasons are protecting people I care about. Sometimes they're just business. But they're all still terrible things. Do you regret any of them? 3. The ones who probably didn't deserve it, but got caught in situations where killing them was easier than finding alternatives. He paused. The rest I'd do again given the same circumstances. Elara processed that. The honesty of it was brutal, but somehow better than comfortable lies would have been. I don't know what to do with this information, she admitted. You decide whether you can live with it, with me, knowing what I'm capable of. Adrian set down his glass. I won't apologize for protecting what's mine, but I also won't blame you for walking away if this is too much. Is that what I am? Yours? Yes, and I'm yours, if you want me. All the ugly parts included. He looked at her. I know this isn't what you signed up for when we got married. I know you wanted safety and freedom and choice, but this is the reality. I kill people when I think it's necessary. I'll probably kill more before this life is done. And if you stay, you're choosing to be with someone who has blood on his hands. The weight of the choice pressed down. Elara thought about all the last few months, the painting, the university application, the slow building of something that felt like life. She thought about Adrian's careful respect for her boundaries, his willingness to fight his father for her freedom, the way he'd made space for her to become whoever she wanted. And she thought about Daniel's face in the moment before the gun went off. I need time, she said finally, to think about all of this. Take whatever you need. She went to her room, closed the door, and sat in the dark trying to make sense of everything. The violence shouldn't have surprised her. She'd grown up in this world, knew its rules. But seeing it, watching life end so quickly and casually, made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Sleep was impossible. Around 3 in the morning, she gave up and went to her studio. The painting she'd been working on sat unfinished on the easel, abstract piece about freedom and constraint. She picked up a brush and started adding to it, working without thinking, letting her hands process what her mind couldn't. Dawn was breaking when she heard footsteps on the stairs. Adrian appeared in the doorway, still in the clothes from last night, looking exhausted. Couldn't sleep either? He asked. No. He came into the studio, looked at the painting. It's different. I added more darkness, seemed appropriate. She set down the brush. Can I ask you something? Always. If it came down to choice between me and your organization, which would you choose? Adrian didn't hesitate. You. You answered too fast. Think about it. I don't need to think about it. I've already made that choice. He moved closer. When I threatened my father with exposure to protect our marriage, I chose you over the organization. When I changed all our security protocols because you needed privacy, I chose you. And if it ever comes down to leaving this life entirely, or losing you, I'll leave. You say that now, but your whole identity is wrapped up in being a Vale. My identity is whoever I choose to be, and I'd rather be someone you can stand to look at than someone who inherits an empire. His expression was serious. I mean it, Elara. I'll walk away from all of this if that's what it takes. And do what? We can't just disappear. Your father, my father, the Castellanos, they don't let people leave. There are ways, expensive, complicated ways that involve burning a lot of bridges and calling in favors I've been saving for emergencies. But it's possible. He paused. Is that what you want? Alara thought about it. Really thought. A normal life, away from violence and surveillance and constant threats. University without security guards. Coffee shops without checking for exits. A world where the man she was married to didn't have body counts. It sounded perfect and completely terrifying. I don't know, she admitted. Part of me wants to say yes immediately. Run away, start over, be normal people. She looked at him. But another part thinks I'd just be trading one cage for another. Always looking over our shoulders, waiting for someone to find us. Never really free because the threat would always be there. That's fair, and probably accurate. Adrian sat on the floor, back against the wall. There's no perfect answer here. Every choice comes with costs. What would you choose? If I wasn't in the equation? I'd stay. Try to change things from inside. Make the organization less violent, more legitimate. Die trying, probably, but at least I'd have tried. He looked up at her. But you are in the equation. And keeping you safe matters more than legacy or reform or anything else. That's a lot of pressure. I know. I'm sorry. Alara sat down next to him, their shoulders touching. I keep thinking about what my mother said. That you're giving me something different, that I shouldn't waste it. I thought she meant freedom, but maybe she meant choice, real choice, where all the options are laid out and I get to decide knowing full consequences. That's what I'm trying to give you. It's harder than I thought, making choices when I actually understand what they cost. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I spent so long wanting agency. Now that I have it, I'm terrified of choosing wrong. There's no wrong choice, just different paths with different outcomes. Adrian's hand found hers. Whatever you decide, I'll support it. Stay, leave, somewhere in between. I'm here for all of it. They sat like that as morning light filled the studio, and Alara felt something settle in her chest. Not resolution exactly, but acceptance. She'd seen the worst of Adrian now, the violence, the casual efficiency of ending lives. And she was still here, still touching him, still considering a future where they figured it out together. Maybe that was answer in itself. I want to stay, she said quietly. Not because I approve of what you do or because I'm okay with the violence. I'm not. But because leaving feels like giving up on something before we've really tried. You sure? No, but I'm choosing it anyway. She turned to look at him. With conditions. Name them. You don't protect me from truth anymore. If something's happening, if there's danger, if you have to make hard calls, I want to know. No more finding out after the fact. Done. And you keep working toward change, toward making the organization less violent, even if it's slow, even if it's hard. I'm already trying. I'll try harder. And we set boundaries. Things I don't participate in, don't want to know details about. I'm choosing to stay, but I'm not choosing to become you. That's fair. We'll figure out where those lines are together. Adrian squeezed her hand. Anything else? Yeah, you let me help sometimes. When it's strategic instead of violent. When my perspective might actually be useful. You meant it when you said, I'm partner. Prove it. Adrian smiled slightly. Deal. Though I should warn you, strategic can be just as ugly as violent. I'm learning that. They stood, left the studio together. Downstairs, Rosa had coffee ready and was pretending she hadn't been worried all night. You two okay? She asked carefully. Working on it, Alara said. Good enough. Rosa poured coffee for both of them. Mr. Marcus called, wants to meet with you both this afternoon. Adrian's expression hardened. What about? Didn't say, just that it's important. Perfect, because what this week needed was my father inserting himself into things. He looked at Alara. You don't have to come to this. Partner, remember? I'm coming. The meeting was at Marcus Vale's estate, sprawling property that screamed old money and older violence. They were shown to his office, dark wood and leather and artwork that probably cost more than most houses. Marcus sat behind his desk like a king on a throne, expression unreadable as they entered. Adrian, Alara, sit. They sat. Marcus studied them both for a long moment. I hear you handled the leak situation. Daniel's dealt with, Adrian said flatly. Good. Efficiency is important. Marcus's gaze shifted to Alara. I also hear you were present. She kept her expression neutral. I was. Interesting. Most women in our world prefer ignorance about these matters. I'm not most women. Something like approval flickered in Marcus's eyes. No, you're not, which is why I'm involving you in this conversation. He leaned back. The Castellanos are angry about losing their information source. They're making noise about retaliation. Let them make noise, Adrian said. We're prepared. Are you? Because from where I sit, you've been distracted lately. Soft. More concerned with domestic arrangements than business operations. My domestic arrangements are none of your concern. They are when they affect the family. Marcus's tone sharpened. You've changed security protocols, reduced our information sharing with allies, isolated yourself from the organization's decision-making processes, all to accommodate her. He gestured at Alara like she was furniture. I've improved our security, reduced liability from loose lips, and maintained operations perfectly well, Adrian countered. The organization is stronger than it was 6 months ago by every metric that matters. Except loyalty. Except unity. Marcus stood. You're building a separate empire inside mine. That's dangerous. I'm building a better version of what you started. That's evolution. It's betrayal. Marcus's voice went cold. And if you're not careful, you'll find yourself without allies when you need them most. Alara felt the threat underneath the words. Marcus was warning Adrian that isolation had costs. Is that what this meeting is about? Adrian asked. Threatening me into falling in line? This meeting is about reminding you where you came from, what you owe. Marcus looked at Alara again. She's made you weak, sentimental. You used to understand that our world requires hardness. I killed someone last night to protect our interests, Adrian said quietly. That hard enough for you? You killed a betrayer after consulting with your wife about security protocols and changing half our operational procedures to make her comfortable. That's not strength. That's compromise dressed up as leadership. Marcus moved around the desk. I'm giving you a choice, Adrian. Recommit to the organization fully, or step aside and let someone who's willing to lead actually lead. The room went silent. Alara felt Adrian go rigid beside her. You're trying to force me out. I'm trying to save you from yourself. Marcus's expression was almost sad. I know you think you can have both, the empire and the marriage, the power and the principles, but you can't. Eventually you'll have to choose, and I'm telling you to choose now while you still have the option. Adrian stood slowly. I'm not stepping aside, and I'm not changing how I run things to suit your outdated ideas about leadership. Then you're making an enemy of me. No. You're making an enemy of me by forcing this choice. Adrian's voice was steel. I've been loyal to this family my entire life. But my loyalty has limits, and you just found them. Marcus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Finally, some of the old fire. Maybe there's hope for you yet. He gestured to the door. Get out, both of you. And Adrian, watch your back. Not everyone in the organization is comfortable with your new direction. Outside, Adrian was shaking with anger. He waited until they were in the car before speaking. That was a declaration of war. Against his own son. He doesn't see me as his son right now. He sees me as threat to his control. Adrian's hands were tight on the steering wheel. This is going to get ugly. What does that mean for us? It means everyone who's been sitting on the fence about my leadership will have to choose sides. And some of them will choose him because he's been in power longer, because they're afraid of change, because they think I'm weak for caring about things beyond profit and violence. Alara processed that. What do? We prepare. We shore up our alliances, protect our assets, make sure people understand that choosing my father means becoming my enemy. He glanced at her. And we keep you safe, because he will absolutely use you as leverage if he thinks it'll force me to fall in line. So back to the cage. Back to careful. Adrian's expression was pained. I'm sorry. I know we just worked through one threat. Now there's another. It's not your fault your father's threatened by progress. Isn't it? If I'd been smarter about the changes, more gradual, maybe he wouldn't have felt backed into corner. Adrian pulled into their driveway. I keep trying to do the right thing, and it keeps making everything more complicated. Welcome to having principles. It's uncomfortable. Alara touched his hand. But you're not doing this alone, remember? Partners. He looked at her, expression softening. You're really sure about this?
About staying through whatever's coming? No, but I'm doing it anyway. She smiled slightly. We're both making terrible choices. Might as well make them together. Inside, they found Rosa packing supplies into boxes. What's happening? Adrian asked. Preparing. I heard Marcus's tone on the phone. I know what it means. Rosa didn't stop working. We need emergency supplies, backup plans, safe locations. If this goes bad, we need to be ready to move fast. You don't have to do this, Adrian said. If things get dangerous, you should leave. Go somewhere safe. Rosa gave him a look that could melt steel. I've been with you for 14 years. I'm not leaving now because your father's having a power struggle. She handed Alara a box. Here, start with the important documents. Passports, bank information, anything we can't replace. Alara took the box and started gathering papers, and realized this was her life now, emergency preparedness. Because family warfare was real possibility. Security protocols and exit strategies, and wondering which allies would stay loyal when tested. It should have been terrifying. And it was. But it was also strangely clarifying. She'd made her choice. Chosen Adrian, chosen this complicated, dangerous life, chosen to fight for something instead of just surviving. Now she'd find out what that choice actually cost. The cost came due faster than either of them expected. 2 weeks after Marcus's ultimatum, 3 of Adrian's key lieutenants defected. They didn't announce it publicly, just stopped showing up to meetings, stopped returning calls. One of them, Carter, who'd been with Adrian since the beginning, left a brief message. Your father made a better offer. Nothing personal. Adrian played the voicemail on speaker while Alara watched his face go carefully blank. Nothing personal, he repeated. He bought out my most trusted people, and it's nothing personal. What does this mean strategically? Alara asked, forcing herself to think practically instead of emotionally. It means my father now controls operations I thought were secure. Territory I was holding, revenue streams I was protecting. Adrian sat heavily. And it means he's showing everyone in the organization that loyalty to me has an expiration date. So we lose ground. We lose more than ground. We lose credibility. He looked at her. People follow strength in our world. My father just demonstrated that he's stronger. The doorbell rang. Rosa answered it, returned with a package. No return address, just Adrian's name written in familiar handwriting. He opened it carefully. Inside was a single photograph, Alara leaving the university campus, taken from distance with telephoto lens. No note, no message. Just the image and the implication. We can reach her anytime we want. Alara's hands went cold. Your father sent this. Or had someone send it on his behalf. Same message, either way. Adrian's voice was tight with controlled rage. He's telling me he'll use you to force compliance if I don't fall in line voluntarily. So what do we do? We make a choice. The one I've been avoiding. Adrian stood, paced. I can submit to him, give up the changes I've been making, go back to running things his way. Save face, maintain position, keep you safer. Or we burn it all down, expose the organization to authorities, take everyone down, including ourselves, and run. Alara thought about Rosa packing emergency supplies 2 weeks ago, about the passport and bank accounts Adrian had set up in her name. He'd been preparing for this choice all along. There's a third option, she said slowly. What? We fight. Not by playing his game, but by changing the rules entirely. She moved to the desk, started pulling out papers. Financial records Adrian had shown her, organizational charts, alliance maps. Your father's strength is based on fear and tradition. People follow him because they're scared of what happens if they don't, or because it's what they've always done. That's not wrong, but it's also not sustainable. You've been saying it yourself, the old ways are dying. The organization needs to evolve to survive. Alara spread the papers out. So instead of fighting him for control of something broken, we build something new. Take the people who actually believe in change and create a separate structure. Split the organization. Adrian studied the papers. That's essentially civil war. It's already civil war. He's just winning because you're trying to take his throne instead of building your own. She pointed to names on the organizational chart. These people have stayed loyal even after Carter left. They believe in what you're doing. What if we formalize that, create actual alternative?
My father would see it as declaration of war. He already has. He sent a photo of me as threat. We're past peaceful transition. Ilara met his eyes. But this way, we're not running and we're not submitting. We're choosing third path, revolution instead of coup. Adrian was quiet for a long time, studying the papers, the maps, the possible futures laid out in front of them. It's risky. People will die. We might die. I know. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with fighting for something instead of just surviving. She touched his hand. You told me once you'd rather die being decent than live being your father. I'm making the same choice. I'd rather risk everything trying to build something better than live safely in his cage. He looked at her with something like awe. When did you become the brave one? When you gave me reason to be. She smiled slightly. Also, I'm terrified. But bravery and terror aren't mutually exclusive. No, they're not. Adrian pulled her close, kissed her forehead. Okay, we do this, but we do it smart, and we protect the people who matter. Over the next 3 days, they built their revolution carefully. Adrian reached out to his remaining loyalists, explained the plan, gave them choice to stay or go. 8 of them committed. Not a large force, but enough to work with. Ilara contributed strategy she'd learned growing up in her father's house. How to read people. How to identify genuine loyalty versus performance. How to find weaknesses in systems that looked solid. Turned out years of being invisible had taught her to see things others missed. Your father has 3 main revenue streams, she said, pointing to the financial records. Legitimate businesses that launder money, underground operations that generate cash, and political connections that provide protection. If we disrupt the middle one without touching the others, we hurt his cash flow, but don't trigger immediate retaliation from his political allies. Adrian looked at her. That's brilliant. How did you figure that out? I've been reading these reports for weeks, and I remember things my father used to say about the Veils, about how Marcus relied too heavily on quick cash instead of sustainable revenue. She paused. Also, I'm good at puzzles. This is just deadly puzzle. They started with the underground operations, gambling houses, protection rackets, supply chains for controlled substances. Not by taking them over, but by making them unprofitable. Anonymous tips to law enforcement about shipments. Strategic fires at warehouses that looked accidental. Sudden employee defections orchestrated through better offers. Within a week, Marcus's cash reserves started draining. He retaliated by targeting Adrian's legitimate businesses. Health inspections that shut down restaurants. Permit issues that halted construction projects. Audits that tied up accounting for months. It's working, Adrian said, looking at reports of Marcus's increasing desperation. He's bleeding money faster than we are. But he's also getting angrier, Ilara pointed out. Angry people make mistakes, but they also escalate. She was right. The escalation came in the form of a fire at one of Adrian's properties, a building he'd been converting into affordable housing, pet project that was more about legacy than profit. No one was hurt, but the message was clear. I can destroy what you care about. Adrian stared at the burned shell of the building, and Ilara watched something change in his expression. Less control, more raw anger. He could have killed people, Adrian said quietly. There are families living in the building next door, children. But he didn't. He's still trying to threaten, not destroy. Ilara touched his arm. Which means we're winning. He wouldn't be this reckless if he felt secure. Or it means he's about to do something worse. That night, Ilara couldn't sleep. She went to her studio, tried to paint, but the brush felt wrong in her hands. Everything felt wrong. They were playing with lives. Their own. Their allies. Innocent people caught in crossfire. She heard Adrian on the phone downstairs, voice low and urgent. When she came down, he was at his desk, surrounded by papers, looking exhausted. Who was that? My mother's sister. She still talks to me occasionally, unlike the rest of the family. Adrian rubbed his face. She says my father is planning something big, meeting with the Castellanos, possibly forming alliance against me. Ilara's stomach dropped. The Castellanos hate your family. They hate me specifically. I'm the one who exposed their information leak. He looked up at her. But they hate the idea of organizational reform more. My father is offering them stability. Things stay the same. Everyone keeps their territory.
Traditional power structures remain intact. In exchange for helping him remove you. Exactly. Adrian stood. We need to move faster, hit him harder before this alliance solidifies.
Or we talk to the Castellanos ourselves. He stared at her. That's suicide. They want me dead. They want stability and profit, same as everyone. Alara moved to the desk, started organizing papers. What if we offer them something better than your father can? Not territory, but opportunity. New markets, legitimate business partnerships, ways to make money that don't require constant violence. They won't listen. They might if the offer comes from me. Adrian's expression went dangerous. Absolutely not. You're not going anywhere near the Castellanos. Why not? I'm Moretti by birth, Vale by marriage. That makes me valuable as neutral negotiator. She met his eyes. And I'm expendable in ways you're not. If they kill me, you can use it to rally support, turn public opinion against them. If they kill you, the revolution dies. Stop talking like that. I'm being practical. You're being suicidal. Adrian grabbed her shoulders. I am not using you as bait or sacrifice or political pawn. That's exactly what I've been trying to prevent. You're not using me. I'm choosing this. Alara's voice was firm. We need the Castellanos neutral at minimum, allied at best. And you can't be the one to approach them because your history is too violent. But I'm fresh slate, unknown quantity. That makes me valuable. It makes you a target. I've been a target since I married you. At least this way I'm target with purpose. She touched his face. Trust me, I can do this. Adrian looked at her for a long moment, conflict clear in every line of his body. If I let you do this and something happens to you, I'll never forgive myself. If you don't let me do this and we lose because you were too busy protecting me, I'll never forgive you. She smiled slightly. We're partners. That means sharing the risks. He closed his eyes. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. The meeting was arranged for neutral ground. A restaurant owned by neither the Vales nor the Castellanos, public enough to discourage violence but private enough for real conversation. Alara went alone except for one guard who stayed outside. Vincent Castellano was younger than she expected, maybe 35, with careful eyes and expensive suit. He studied her across the table with open curiosity. Mrs. Vale, this is unexpected. I imagine so. Alara kept her voice steady despite the fear. Thank you for meeting with me. Your message was intriguing, something about mutually beneficial arrangements. Vincent leaned back. I'm curious what the wife of my enemy thinks she can offer me. An alternative to the deal Marcus Vale is proposing. You know about that. I know he's offering you stability in exchange for helping remove Adrian. Alara met his eyes. I'm offering you something better, growth. Explain. Marcus's stability is stagnation. He wants to keep everything the same because change threatens his control. But the same means diminishing returns, increased law enforcement pressure, eventually collapse. She pulled out papers she'd prepared. Adrian's changes are designed to move operations toward legitimacy. Legal businesses that generate real profit, political connections based on economic contribution instead of blackmail, sustainable revenue that doesn't require constant violence. Vincent studied the papers. This looks good on paper, but implementing it requires trust, cooperation, time we don't have while fighting internal wars. Which is why we need the war to end. Not with one side winning, but with both sides agreeing the old system is finished. Alara leaned forward. Marcus is offering you a share of a dying empire. We're offering you a stake in building a new one. And if I say no? Join your father-in-law and help eliminate Adrian. Then you get short-term victory and long-term problems. Adrian's loyalists won't give up just because he's gone. You'll be fighting guerrilla resistance for years while law enforcement closes in on operations that are increasingly unprofitable. She paused. And you'll make an enemy of me. Vincent smiled. You? What threat could you possibly pose? I'm a Moretti. My father may have cut me off, but I still have information about his operations, his allies, his weaknesses. Information I'd be willing to share with authorities if my husband is killed. She held his gaze. Mutually assured destruction. Marcus taught me that one. You destroy your own father's organization? He stopped being my father when he tried to use me as property. Now he's just another player in a game I'm learning to play. Alara's voice was cold. Help us and you get a prosperity. Fight us. and you get scorched earth. Your choice. Vincent was quiet for a long time. You're not what I expected. Good. Unexpected is useful. It is. He tapped the papers. I need to discuss this with my people, but I'm interested. Marcus's offer is safe, but limited. Yours is risky, but potentially more valuable. How long do you need? A week, maybe less. Vincent stood. I'll be in touch, Mrs. Vale, one way or another. Alara returned home to find Adrian pacing the living room, relief evident when she walked in. How did it go? He's considering it, needs time to talk to his advisors. She collapsed onto the couch. I'm shaking. That was terrifying. You did it anyway. Adrian sat beside her. What did you offer him? Partnership, growth, and threat of mutually assured destruction if he sides with your father. She looked at him. Was that the right play? Time will tell. But it was brave. He pulled her close. I'm proud of you, and terrified for you, both at once. Welcome to my life for the past 6 months. They waited. 3 days passed with no word from Vincent. Adrian's remaining operations continued to clash with Marcus's, small skirmishes that bled resources on both sides. The organization was fracturing visibly now, people choosing sides, old alliances crumbling. On the 4th day, Alara's father called. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. What do you want? To warn you. His voice was different, less cold, more urgent. Marcus is planning to move against you directly. Not Adrian. You. Why are you telling me this? Because despite everything, you're still my daughter. And because I made mistakes with you that I'm trying to correct. He paused. Your mother made me see things differently, made me understand what I took from you. Alara didn't know what to say to that. When? She asked finally. Soon. Maybe tonight. He's hired outside contractors, people not loyal to either side. They're going to make it look like the Castellanos did it, force Adrian into retaliation that destroys any chance of alliance. How do you know this? Because he tried to hire me to arrange it. I declined. Her father's voice was quiet. I may have failed you in many ways, but I won't facilitate your murder. That's a low bar for redemption. I know, but it's a start. He gave her details. Times, locations, the contractors' names. Be careful, Alara. And consider that not everyone in the old system is beyond change. He hung up before she could respond. Adrian took the information seriously, immediately increasing security, changing locations, preparing for attack. That night they stayed in a safe house with guards rotating in shifts, every window covered, every entrance monitored. The attack came at 2 a.m. 3 men with professional efficiency and silenced weapons. They got past the first perimeter, but Adrian's people were ready. The fight was brief and brutal. 2 contractors dead, 1 captured and interrogated. He confirmed everything Alara's father had said. Marcus had hired them, provided information, wanted Alara dead to provoke war with the Castellanos. He's willing to kill his own son's wife, Adrian said, looking at the evidence, to maintain control. He's desperate. We've backed him into corner. Alara felt strange calm. What do we do with this? We use it. Adrian started making calls. Everyone needs to know what he tried. Every lieutenant, every ally, every person sitting on the fence. They need to see what he's willing to do to maintain power. The information spread like wildfire through the organization. Marcus Vale had ordered hit on his daughter-in-law, violated every code about family and loyalty. The backlash was immediate. 3 more of his key people defected. Others started refusing orders, questioning decisions. Within 48 hours, Marcus's control was crumbling. Vincent Castellano called during the chaos. I'm hearing interesting things about your father-in-law. I imagine so, Alara said. Trying to kill you and blame it on us was creative, also incredibly stupid. Vincent's tone was dry. I'm in. Your deal is better than his, and he's clearly unstable. Let's talk specifics about partnership. The meeting happened fast. Adrian, Alara, Vincent, and representatives from the major families that hadn't yet chosen sides. Neutral ground again, this time with more security and higher stakes. Adrian presented the vision clearly. Legitimate businesses with illegal operations as backup, not primary revenue. political influence through economic contribution, reduced violence, increased profit margins, sustainable growth. It requires trust, he said, and cooperation between families that have been rivals. But the alternative is continued decline, while law enforcement gets smarter and our operations get more expensive to maintain. What about Marcus? Someone asked. He still controls significant resources. My father is finished, Adrian said flatly. He ordered hit on my wife and tried to frame the Castellanos for it. That violates every principle our world operates on. He's lost legitimacy.
So what happens to him? Adrian looked at Alara. She nodded slightly. He steps down voluntarily or we force him out, Adrian said. But either way, his leadership ends today. The vote was unanimous. They found Marcus in his office, alone except for one loyal guard. He looked older than Alara remembered, tired in ways that went beyond physical exhaustion. Come to gloat? He asked Adrian. No, to offer you a choice. Adrian stood in front of the desk. Step down, retire.
Disappear with your wealth intact and your life preserved, or fight this and lose everything, including your freedom. You'd turn me over to authorities? If I have to, you tried to kill my wife. That's unforgivable. Adrian's voice was hard. But you're still my father, so I'm giving you the option to leave with dignity. Marcus laughed bitterly. Dignity, that's rich coming from someone who tore apart the organization I built. You were tearing it apart yourself. I just accelerated the process. Adrian paused. The world changed, and you refused to change with it. That's not my failure, it's yours. You think you can do better? I know I can. Because I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong, willing to adapt, willing to value people beyond their utility. Adrian's expression softened slightly. You taught me a lot, Dad. Strategy, patience, how to read people. But you also taught me what not to become, and I'm grateful for both lessons. Marcus studied his son for a long moment. You really believe in this, the reform, the partnership, all of it. I do. Then you're either visionary or fool. Time will tell which. Marcus stood slowly. I'll step down, but not because you're forcing me, because I'm tired of fighting battles I no longer believe in. He left that night, escorted to a property in another state where he could live quietly without influence or power. Alara watched him go and felt something unexpected. Pity. He'd built an empire on fear and control, and it had cost him everything, including his son. The transition wasn't smooth. There were still loyalists who resisted, still violence as old systems fought against new ones. But gradually, over months, Adrian's vision started taking shape. Legitimate businesses grew. Underground operations became smaller, more strategic. Political connections shifted from blackmail to economic partnership. The organization didn't become clean overnight. It couldn't, given its history and the people involved, but it became less violent, more sustainable, something that could exist without constant warfare. Alara found herself pulled deeper into the work than she'd expected. She had a gift for negotiation, for reading people and finding common ground. She also had a reputation now, the woman who'd faced down the Castellanos, who'd survived assassination attempts, who'd helped orchestrate a revolution. People respected her, and that respect came with its own kind of power. She also started university. It took longer than planned, between organizational restructuring and security concerns, but eventually she enrolled in art history program with focus on contemporary work. She painted when she could, exhibited occasionally in small galleries under a pseudonym. Her relationship with Adrian deepened in ways she hadn't anticipated. The trust that had been fractured and rebuilt was now solid, tested by fire and proven reliable. They fought sometimes. Loud arguments about strategy or risk or the right balance between safety and freedom. But they also laughed, planned, built life together that felt real instead of performed. A year after the revolution, Alara discovered she was pregnant. The news came on an ordinary Tuesday, confirmation from a doctor visit she'd scheduled for unrelated reasons. She sat in the car afterward, staring at the test results, trying to process what they meant. A child. Her child. Theirs. She found Adrian in his office, buried in paperwork about a business acquisition. He looked up when she entered, smiled. Hey, how was the appointment? She handed him the paper without speaking. He read it again. His expression went through several changes before settling on something between joy and terror. You're pregnant. Apparently. How do you feel about that? Alara sat down. Honestly, terrified. We just finished restructuring an entire criminal organization. Our lives are still complicated and dangerous, and I have no idea how to be a parent. That's fair. I feel all of those things too. Adrian moved around the desk, knelt in front of her. But also? Also, I want this, which surprises me because I didn't think I did. She touched his face. I want to build something with you that isn't about survival or strategy. I want to raise someone who gets to choose their own life from the beginning. No silent brides or forced marriages. No surveillance or violence as normal. She paused. Can we do that? Raise a child in this world without passing on all the damage? I don't know, but I want to try. Adrian's hand covered hers on her stomach, even though there was nothing to feel yet. We'll figure it out. Same way we've figured out everything else. The pregnancy was carefully managed, security tight, but not suffocating. Adrian made sure she had space to breathe, to continue her studies, to paint. Rosa was overjoyed, immediately taking charge of preparing nursery and buying supplies. Ilara's relationship with her parents remained complicated. Her father tried to reconnect, sent gifts and letters that she mostly ignored. Her mother visited once, awkward and formal, to offer congratulations. You're doing better than I did, her mother said over tea, building actual partnership instead of performance. I had better options than you did. You made better choices. There's a difference. Her mother's expression was sad. I was offered choices too. I just didn't have the courage to take them. It was closest thing to connection they'd had in years. Not forgiveness, not healing, but acknowledgement. The baby was born in early spring. Healthy girl with dark hair and her father's serious eyes. They named her Maya, chosen, not given, name that meant rebirth. Adrian cried when he held her for the first time, this tiny person who was completely dependent and completely theirs. I'm going to do better, he whispered. You get to choose everything. We'll make sure of it. Ilara watched them together and felt something settle in her chest. Not perfection. Their lives were still complicated, still touched by violence and danger they couldn't completely escape. But they'd built something real here. Partnership based on truth, family built on choice, life that was theirs even with all its imperfections. Rosa took photos. Adrian and Ilara with Maya between them, exhausted and happy and uncertain about everything except their commitment to doing better than they'd been given. In the months that followed, they established new rhythms. Ilara painted when Maya slept, studied between feedings, found ways to balance motherhood with the identity she'd worked so hard to build. Adrian restructured his schedule to be more present, delegating operations to trusted lieutenants so he could actually be home for dinner, for bedtime stories, for the 1,000 small moments that built family. The organization continued evolving. Some ventures failed. Some succeeded beyond expectation. There were still problems, still threats, still violence sometimes when other solutions failed. But the trajectory was clear, toward legitimacy, toward sustainability, toward something that could exist without destroying everyone it touched. On Maya's first birthday, they threw a party. Not the elaborate affairs Ilara had attended as a child, full of performance and political maneuvering. Just family. Rosa, the few friends they'd made outside the organization, allies who'd become genuine relationships. Vincent Castellano came, brought gifts, stayed for cake. He and Adrian talked business for a while, but mostly just watched their kids play together, finding common ground in parenthood that rivalry had never allowed. Ilara's mother showed up unexpectedly, brought an antique music box that had belonged to Ilara as a child. I should have given this to you years ago, she said, but I was afraid you'd break it. I'm sorry I was afraid of so many things. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was acknowledgement. As the party wound down and guests departed, Ilara found herself in Maya's room, watching her daughter sleep. Adrian appeared in the doorway, leaned against the frame. You okay? He asked quietly. Yeah, just thinking. About? About how different this is from what I thought my life would be. She smiled at him. I never imagined any of this. The marriage, the revolution, the baby. I was just trying to survive. And now? Now I'm trying to live. Actually live, not just exist. She moved to him, let him wrap his arms around her. It's harder than surviving sometimes. But better? Much better.
She looked up at him. We did it, you know. Built something that's ours. Imperfect and complicated and real. We're still building it, Adrian said. Every day, every choice. But yeah, we're doing it. They stood together in the doorway, watching their daughter sleep, and Alara thought about the girl she'd been, silent bride, invisible daughter, person trained to disappear. That girl was gone now, replaced by someone who spoke up, who fought for what mattered, who chose her life instead of accepting what was given. The journey from that wedding day to this moment had been brutal and beautiful in equal measure. She'd lost pieces of herself and found new ones. She'd been broken and rebuilt stronger. She'd learned that freedom was choice, even when every choice came with costs. Maya stirred in her sleep, made soft sound. Adrian moved to check on her, gentle hand on her back until she settled again. Watching him, this man who'd killed to protect them, who'd fought his own father for the chance to build something better, Alara felt profound gratitude mixed with clear-eyed understanding of what their life actually was. Not perfect, never perfect, but chosen, fought for, built deliberately from wreckage and hope. Come on, she said quietly, taking Adrian's hand. Let's get some sleep while we can. They left Maya's room together, closed the door softly, and walked down the hall to their own bedroom. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The organization would need attention. Maya would need care. Their careful balance would require constant maintenance. But tonight, they had this. Each other, their daughter, the life they'd chosen despite everything. It was enough. More than enough. It was theirs. And in the end, that was what mattered most. Not that they'd built something perfect, but that they'd built something real. Not that they'd escaped their past completely, but that they'd refused to let those pasts define their futures. Not that they'd found safety, but that they'd found each other and decided to keep choosing that, day after difficult day. The house settled into quiet as they prepared for bed. Outside, security made their rounds. Upstairs, Maya slept peacefully. And in their room, Adrian and Alara lay together in the dark, hands intertwined, building tomorrow with the same determination they'd used to survive yesterday. Different now. Better. Theirs. And that was everything.